Welcome back to Record Rift, where we dive into history's most captivating, tragic, and mysterious stories. In today's episode, we're uncovering the tragic tale of the Children's Crusade, a heartbreaking event that shaped the lives of thousands of young souls. Stay tuned, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more fascinating historical tales. Picture this: it's the early 13th century, the world is steeped in religious fervor, and the Crusades have been raging for decades. People across Europe were convinced that they were meant to reclaim Jerusalem from the Muslims. But this story is about an event that would bring tragedy to a group of children, innocent lives caught up in a religious war that they didn't fully understand. In 1212, somewhere between 20,000 to 30,000 children from France and Germany embarked on what they called the Children's Crusade. They believed that through their purity and faith, they could succeed where the adult crusaders had failed. They were not soldiers, but young boys and girls, some as young as 10 years old, who dreamed of freeing Jerusalem. The children were inspired by religious leaders who promised them that the Mediterranean Sea would part, just as it had for Moses. They believed they were on a divine mission. But the journey was nothing like they had imagined. Ill-prepared, hungry, and facing harsh conditions, these young crusaders marched from France through the countryside. They were led by a shepherd boy named Stephen of Cloyes, who had claimed to have seen visions from God. The children's hopes were shattered when they reached the shores of the Mediterranean. They expected the sea to part, but instead, they faced a grim reality. A lack of food, sickness, and despair began to take its toll. Worse still, many of them were sold into slavery when unscrupulous merchants took advantage of their vulnerability. The once dreamed of mission had turned into a nightmare. It's unclear how many children survived, but estimates suggest that most of them never made it back home. Some were lost in battle, others succumbed to disease, and many were never seen again. Now you might be wondering, why did this happen? How did so many children end up following this misguided cause? The reasons are complex. It's likely that the children were motivated by religious zeal, but also by a sense of desperation. Many of them came from impoverished backgrounds, and the idea of a divine mission gave them hope for a better future. And then, there were the adults. They used the children's innocence for their own gain, whether by promising them victory or selling them into slavery. Some historians argue that this was a tragic combination of manipulation and exploitation. The Children's Crusade may be a forgotten chapter in many history books, but it left behind a haunting legacy. It's a reminder of the dangers of blind faith, the exploitation of vulnerable populations, and the devastating effects of war. The children's story didn't change the course of the Crusades, but it did serve as a grim warning for the future. Today, the Children's Crusade stands as one of the most tragic stories in medieval history, a dark chapter where the hopes of the young were exploited, leading them to an unimaginable fate. Thank you for joining us on this heartbreaking journey into history. If you found this story moving, be sure to like, comment, and share your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe to Record Rift for more deep dives into history's most fascinating and tragic tales. Until next time, keep exploring the unknown.